नमस्कार, मी जगदीश मेहेंदळे, गर्जे मराठी ग्लोबल कॅनडा सेंटर ऑफ एक्सलन्स तर्फे आपल्या सगळ्यांचं स्वागत करतो. आज आपण एक वेबिनार ऑर्गनाइज केलेला आहे. इंटरनॅशनल ट्रेड पोटेन्शियल इन कॅनडा, जो आजच्या परिस्थितीमध्ये खूपच इफेक्टिव्ह असा हा सब्जेक्ट आहे आणि त्याला आपल्याला खूप चांगला प्रतिसाद मिळालेला आहे. आणि आपल्यापैकीच हर्षल हे तो वेबिनार घेणार आहे. So let me introduce Harshal Gunde. First and foremost, Harshal is one of the founder directors of Garze Marathi Global Canada Center of Excellence. He is an inspiring force of intellect, innovation, and international enterprise, an alumnus of IIT Bombay. Harshal began his journey as an engineer and went on to earn a master's degree, laying the groundwork for what would become a dynamic and diversified entrepreneurial career. From a successful stint as a manager at Deloitte, Herschel transitioned into the world of business with an unstoppable drive. Today, he leads a portfolio of ventures that span across 15 countries, with one of his flagship enterprise being PITS, one of the largest independent testing services in the world. Under his leadership, Herschel's team has expanded to over 350 people globally, and his latest venture includes the acquisition of a fully operational hospital in Pennsylvania, USA, a testament to his vision and bold approach to growth. A naturally charismatic and extroverted personality, Herschel is as comfortable on the global business stage as he is in a room full of people, always eloquent, always engaging. Yes, when asked about his greatest achievement, Herschel is quick to point to his wife, Mrs. Kanchan Raste, a remarkable entrepreneur in her own right. Together, they represent the perfect synergy of strength, ambition, and shared dreams. Let me request Herschel to take over and start his presentation. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you, Jagdish ji. Thank you for all the introduction. Yes, it's been a long journey, and I've been in Canada since 2000. So I've seen the ups and downs of what has happened in the Canadian economy for the last 25 years, lived and breathed, I've been breathing it. And I have done my own bit of trade with rest of the world. And the whole intention here is to keep it as a discussion forum where we try to understand and try to come up with scenarios which will open your mind to what we can do sitting in Canada with the rest of the world. It doesn't have to be India. आपण सगळे मराठी आहोत. We are in the Garje Marathi forum, but doesn't mean that as entrepreneurs we should limit ourselves to India or Maharashtra. And there is a lot of things we could do by originating a lot of ideas from Canada and to Canada. And I just wanted to go through this discussion rather than a presentation. I put together some slides about certain tools or other things that you can see, some data, but again, it's all about discussion, and I would love to have questions and a healthy understanding of what is the current potential and what we could do. So I've split the presentation sort of discussion into four parts. First is about the potential of goods and services. Second, which everybody thinks is, okay, if I want to do global trade, how do I do it? मी हे कसं करू? माझ्याकडे भांडवल नाही आहे. Typical आपण मराठी लोक, the reason Garaje Marathi is here is we want Marathis people to start engaging in business, entrepreneurship, expand our communities, reach, and our portfolios. So how do you finance it? Most of us come from education background, and usually our families are all about education. अभ्यास करा, a degree घ्या, become a PhD or whatever. And how do you finance it? So we always have this requirement. So I can go through some of the trade financing options available. Next, I wanted to share with you some of my personal experiences over last 25 years. की मी बरंच ट्राय करत असतो, करतो आणि there are positives and negatives. I think in business, is the best way of educating yourself. Even though you lose money, you get a lot of knowledge. That's where I always want to keep investing myself. And then the last thing is from whatever I have seen, some of the risks that we see and what are the ways that we can mitigate it. So this is going to be in English and Marathi. I'll switch between both. So that is everyone okay? You can just do a thumbs up so that it's clear to everyone and we can start engaging. We can ask questions. Either you can raise your hand and I think Jagdish can moderate it, or we can just type up the question in the chat and we'll get through the questions one by one at the end of the presentation. We'll have enough time.
या
Okay?
चॅट विंडोमध्ये टाकू शकतात क्वेश्चन्स अँड आय विल
या
मॉनिटर इट.
या मिलिंद मॉनिटर करतोय.
Okay. And is everybody okay, right?
येस.
So, staying in Canada with all the tariff talk, I think all of you must be thinking ki काय करू शकतो आपण? And what are some of the things that we could do from Canada? And I think there is a lot of data available. Many of us look at it, आपण कायम news मध्ये ऐकतो. And Canada as such is a resource country. We usually export um, primarily oil. I think Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Winnipeg, that side, we have a lot of oil. Even on the east coast, we have one of the largest refineries in the world, which is in Irving, in St. John, New Brunswick, called Irving Oil. They produce a lot of distillates also. Oil is one of our biggest exports. Of course, the main market is also United States because it's so close, but there is a rest of the world available. It is not that आपण दुसरीकडे पाठवत नाही. The whole thing is because US was the easiest customer and they were always buying, we never explored. I think with all the tariffs and all the talks with what is happening south of the border, people are looking at what else we could do. China is the next one. And in India, if you start going, I'll send you the link, hey, oec.world म्हणून आहे. It's an excellent site set up by former MIT people, but it gives you a lot of data and they keep refreshing it. It's done by PhD people. And I always refer to it because it gives a lot of perspective how you can analyze. So US and China kind of are our biggest importers, and also what we import, we get a lot of goods, machinery, cars, like a lot of finished goods back from US, Germany, China, India. So typically Canada is a resource intensive country. आपल्याकडे भरपूर जागा आहे, भरपूर मिनरल्स आहेत, फॉरेस्ट्री प्रोडक्ट्स आहेत, ॲग्रिकल्चर आहे. One of the things that people don't realize it, in the prairies, which is Manitoba and Saskatchewan, ते सफेद मटार ग्रो करतात. And सफेद मटार or white peas are not used by anybody in Canada. It is primarily used by Gujaratis in Gujarat. And for quite a few years, they are grown in our prairies and exported directly to India. So if you ever want to see how food grains and all these exports happen, I would encourage everybody to visit Saskatoon in the summers, typically around July, August, and drive from Saskatoon to Regina. You will see how the Canadian agriculture is producing wheat and peas and others, and how they're all set up so that it can be exported. Canada मध्ये आपल्याकडे लोक कमी आहेत, but we produce a lot of food articles, lot of minerals which are exported to the rest of the world. So whenever you are analyzing whether we should export or import, I think one of the first things you have to realize is we can export a lot. Okay, so always think of Canada as a resource country and the rest of the world as a consumer for our resources. I would always encourage you to do that analysis. Doesn't mean we don't need a lot of stuff in Canada, but you have to start looking at whether if I'm spending, let's say, 100 hours and doing a business, whether it's worth it to sell outside of Canada or should I bring it into Canada? And that is, I think, one of the important analysis that you have to do when you have access to a market or access to a good or services. So this is one of the sites, and if I can tell you, Canada does produce a lot. It's one of the largest producers of uranium as well. 25% of the world's uranium is mined from one mine in Saskatchewan. and the company is Cameco. That's why we produce a lot of nuclear energy in Canada. Second thing is we produce a lot of gold, nickel, diamonds. Some of the cleanest diamonds in the world, which don't go through any terrorism, are mined out of Diavik mine, which is up again in the Northwest Territories. So there's a lot of resource potential in Canada. And again, looking at how our Indian community and Marathi community is concentrated in the cities, we don't have exposure to all these economies outside of the main area. So, if for example, if you go to Timmins in Ontario, तुम्हाला बरंच तिथे mining oriented jobs, mining oriented businesses, ancillary services for them, ancillary goods that they produce which can be sold to the rest of the world. बरंच काय काय तुम्हाला मिळेल. So I think you have to look at what you're going to produce and where you're going to sell. Again, when you are exporting it, don't think of only India. There is the rest of the world which you can send. Africa needs a lot of grains and the pulses. We have a lot of potential in the Middle East. We can send it. One of the examples is people don't realize China made they everybody eats with chopsticks, and most of the chopsticks are made in North Carolina, USA. Okay, so Chinese eat food with American wood, but you think that China makes everything for USA. But there are a lot of all these nuances. जिथं competition पण कमी असतं because people don't do the typical, oh, dollar is higher, let's buy something from the poorer sort of the mass scale producers in the world and bring it to Canada or bring it to US. But there's a whole lot of business which can be done outside of Canada as well. So this is kind of one of the general ideas I wanted to give everybody. Think of it. I'm not saying this is the answer, but you may have your own business plan. But these are some of the things. OEC.world is a nice site. You can all go. You can also register, and it's a lot of data which is refreshed every year. Same way, because all of us are Marathi, we think about Canada to India. आत्ताच मी थोडं आपल्या गरजे मराठीवरती पण बघितलं की पीपल वॉन्टेड टू ब्रिंग इन अल्फॉन्सो मँगोज सेल इट हिअर आपण इम्पोर्ट करायचा विचार करत असतो येस या ऑल मीन्स गो अहेड बट ऑल्सो थिंक ऑफ ऑल दी अदर थिंग्स वी कुड डू from Canada to India. So there is a lot of mineral oils which are sent there, precious stones, pearls, even some root vegetables and tubers are processed and sent. वन थिंग यू हॅव टू रिअलाइज इंडियामध्ये आपण प्रोड्यूस भरपूर करतो बट आपल्याकडे प्रोसेसिंग इंडस्ट्री एवढी नाही आहे we don't have canning industry as to the scale at which Canada has. 70% of Canada's food is processed between the 8-hour journey between Montreal and Windsor. So if you go along 401 is most of the food processing industry. They process a lot of food, they can it आणि हे सगळ्या गोष्टी सगळीकडे विकले जातात. So you have to look at that. Wood, pulp, and paper, major produce. One of the only countries in the world where our government encourages you to cut the forest. The reason is it's not a bad thing. Actually, it is a healthy thing. कारण इथले जे forests आहेत, they are usually coniferous, single like trunk, tall trees. When they keep growing, after some years, if you don't cut them, the forest doesn't become healthy. It becomes a fire hazard. And they do, and if you have everybody at like a 20-year growth, like 20-year-old trees, it's not good for the forest. You should have some trees which are 5 years, some trees which are just planted, and some trees which are 10 years old. And that will happen only when somebody goes and disturbs the forest. म्हणून the Canadian government has a nice forest stewardship project under which we can go cut the wood, harvest it, and basically produce the planks which are needed. Of course, it will be pine, poplar, but there's also a whole market for maple, hardwoods like maple and oak. आपल्याकडे इंडियामध्ये बरेचसे आपले जे कार्पेंटर्स असतात ते टीक सोडून बाकी काय बोलतच नाहीत बट इफ यू लुक ॲट इट मेपल अँड ओक कॅन ऑल्सो रिप्लेस टीक वूड पण आपल्याकडे अजून ते मार्केट डेव्हलप झालं नाही बट देर इज अ लॉट ऑफ environmental benefit to sell wood from Canada to places like India. And India, they shouldn't touch any tree. So ideally, we can do that. Paper industry used to be thriving in Canada. Domtar is one of the companies you'll see everywhere. But many of them have shut down in Canada because we didn't have enough consumption. So there was potential, but we have to find the right market. So that is some of the things that we sell from Canada. What comes from India to Canada, typically pharma products. We produce a lot of generic pharmaceuticals, which are brought here. Intermediaries are produced. We produce a lot of engineering parts, which are again brought over here. So there's a lot of healthy industry uh, which is happening other than our regular staples of food and certain jewelry items and finished goods. There's a lot of intermediaries which also happen. Again, OAC is one of the sites, but you can also go on the Canada.ca government's website and look at the trade potential and try to analyze what you want to get into. Uh, while you're analyzing that, I just wanted to show you one particular statistics. So if you realize, आपल्या इंडियाचे population आहे 1.4 billion, which is 1420. Population of Canada is 41 million. ओके, 4 कोटी लोकच राहतात इथे. आपण जर करता मुंबई, पुणे आणि ठाणे हे एकत्र केलं तर तेवढीच लोक असतात जे कॅनडात आहेत, अख्ख्या कॅनडामध्ये. Okay, so if you want to sell a good, आणि मला मुंबई, पुणे आणि ठाण्यामध्ये if I am trying to achieve it, it would be a lot more efficient to sell it in India than to sell it in Canada. कारण आपण एका छोट्याशा 3 शहरांमध्ये you can reach the same number of people that you would reach in the whole country of Canada, which is I think 3 times of India. And everybody has its own, silos. कारण अल्बर्टामध्ये कॅल्गरी आणि एडमंटन सोडून बाकी कुठेही कोण जास्त राहत नाहीत. And everywhere you have multinational people. So whenever you look at export import, look at who's the market. Is Canada the market or India the market? And I would strongly suggest everybody that when you're looking at export import, look at exporting from Canada to a market as big as India. If you look at it, this is another statistics I took from Statistics Canada. They also produce a lot of data every year, a lot of reports. Even if you are thinking of certain trade, please go and keep reviewing it. Our Canadian government does a lot of work which they never advertise. We just have to go and keep finding it. आणि भरपूर projects चालू असतात. So in the last 2 years, we have neither increased or decreased the trade with India. So there's a lot of potential. India's purchasing potential has gone up significantly, but the trade between Canada and India has not gone up significantly. Okay. So even though we see a lot of restaurants opening, grocery stores open, yes, students have come in and they have brought in the money, but trade, cross country trade hasn't increased, which is a kind of eye-opening thing. कि अरे एवढे सगळे आले, but still we are not trading enough. I think it's more about our entrepreneurship capacity. कि are we really selling it or are we buying anything or not? Okay. I does anybody have any major questions if we want to have a small chat?
Yeah, Pratik's एक प्रश्न है. Pratik, go ahead. Okay, I think Pratik's प्रश्न है कि how can businesses leverage trade agreements like CUSMA, CPTP or CETA for better market access? What scale of business is required to remain abide by the trade agreements?
Okay, a trade agreement is a framework. It's a trade agreement actually gives you certain advantages, but I think at the core of everything is we have to look at the basic concept of business. Somebody wants a service or a good that you have. Okay, a trade agreement would tell you how to price it or how to navigate the complexity of taxes and transport, but it would not create a market for you. Okay, what is happening south of the border right now with all the rash decisions and all the trials they're doing there, that is not a long-term strategy. A long-term strategy is what is something that the other country or the other group wants that you have, or what is it that you need that they have, and you have to look at your basic economics first. The CUSMA and all these trade agreements, if you one thing I would tell you is, if you base your business on a trade agreement, the day the trade agreement or there is one party goes out of it, your business should not shut down. Okay, use the facilities, but at the core, have your basic profitability in your thoughts. Okay, but yeah, you could use it. There is also a free trade agreement between Canada and UK. There is also a free trade agreement, I think, between Canada and France also for cheese and other things. So you could bring in a lot of goods and export a lot of other like farm products there. So you can look. Yes, there are certain bilateral agreements which happen, but always take it as on top of the $4 or $5 of profit you would make. You could probably make $6 till the trade agreement stays, but then you should go back to a profitability of $4. Just giving an example.
Yeah, Jagdishji, go ahead.
I have two questions, Harshal.
Yeah.
एक म्हणजे whatever the relationship change within India and Canada, तर ह्या सिच्युएशन मध्ये आपण कसं काय वर्क करू शकतो, कन्सिडरिंग लाईक increasing business with India, if you consider exporting from Canada to India. So that is my one question. And second question is, most of us may be right now thinking of importing something from India, which may be like our own community will be able to consume it or use it. Okay. But now you have given us a totally different dimension, a totally opposite angle to it. So for something to export from Canada to India, is there any kind of what I should say, a training or any program available where you can learn more about it?
Okay, so that is okay. That's a big question. Let me try to answer it. So one thing is, politically, Canada and India may have its own political agenda, and politics-wise, there would be something happening. I think business cannot uh, be like your primary core business should not be based on whether politically they're good or not. We have to see as whether there is some service or good which the other party needs. So if India needs something or Canada needs something, and if it is something that will give us profit. So like Alfonso mango, right? Or a mango. Mango can never grow in Canada. Weather-wise, it's not possible. So you will always need to import mangoes. You should go ahead and set up your business that way and see how much you can import, how much will be your margins, what are all the risks that you would face in bringing them over because it's a perishable good, and what is the margin that will be available. So, and there is a lot of competition. The problem with our India-oriented import businesses, as soon as you do something and you find it is profitable by $10 every year, your profit keeps going down because everybody starts competing with you. Okay, so $10 atta hai. So instead of growing your business, you start reducing the quality or whatever. It keeps degrading every year. So that is one of the bigger problems. कारण आपल्याकडे consumers तेवढेच आहेत. If you look at it, the Indian diaspora in Canada, I was looking at it, is about 1.6 million at max. That is including everybody who's here and who is coming in. So when you look at that, that's a very limited market. त्यांनाच तुम्ही विकणार. Okay, the general public, which are not Indians, whether they'll buy Indian goods like a samosa, it takes time. So when you look at importing and setting up a business, it could be a side business, but making it a viable thing, you would have to look at your competition and see if there is anything that will not degrade, sorry, reduce your market as you become more successful. That's always a problem. The other side is what can you sell in India and how would you go about it? There are quite a few forums available, and I think Canada that way is a very free country. I'll come to some of my slides where I'll explain you the different options of where you can find all that data. What I always find is we lack entrepreneurship here. The market is there, the data is available, but we don't have people here who can take advantage of the data and the market and execute a project to make your life or make it more profitable. So I think the resource issue always comes up in Canada rather than whether there's a market. And again, we always think of India. Think of the rest of the world. There are 200 other countries where you could sell goods, right? So think of everywhere else. Nobody stops you from selling something in the Middle East. Okay, you'll have to find a local buyer, yes, but you originating in Canada can always sell something in UAE, for example. So find different markets for it, but pick a specialty and keep working on your supply chains, on your value addition that you will do. Let's say you're selling, for example, a kind of paper. If that is kind of the best quality paper in that segment, uh, see how you can bring a market to it and keep enhancing your supply chain. Instead of making it at $2, if you can get it down to $1 to 50 cents. There are a lot of things you can do in Canada because we don't have enough resources to maximize on, like enough human resources to maximize on the potential here. Okay. I think I'll move forward with.
Yeah, मी तेच सांगणार होतं 8:36 आहे, so let's better
Yeah.
move on to the
So
slide.
the next thing is, how do we finance our export-import trade? So in Canada, there is only one government-backed entity, EDC, Export Development Corporation of Canada. It's a crown corporation. And what I just picked up from the slide, and I have worked with them in the past. So they provide financing. So again, it's access to capital. Second is they provide insurance when you're sending something and you need it insured. Okay, if I send it, and if the other party doesn't pay, what kind of insurances do you have? They also have a lot of knowledge, and that is where I was saying you can get a lot of data from there. And they can also help you build connections. Every year they send a trade commission. They'll take you to, for example, if you want to do something in, I'll tell Kenya, they usually in a year they'll take all the business people from here. They facilitate some of the expenses, not everything, but it helps them. They have a lot of resources. Again, they are a very much a laid back export development crowd corporation. So they will not, they will come to you and try to help you, but they're not going to drive your business. You have to extract it out. One important thing which I'll tell you from my past experience, when they tell will support your financing, they will look at us and they have all our data. But on the other side, for example, इंडियामध्ये पण त्यांचा ऑफिस आहे. आता इंडियामध्ये तुम्ही एक गोष्ट विकत असाल आणि इंडियामध्ये जर का तुम्हाला ते बिल डिस्काउंटिंग नाही तर व्हॉट एव्हर LC जे म्हणतो लेटर ऑफ क्रेडिट पाहिजे, तर त्यावेळेला द अदर पार्टी हॅज टू बी इन्शुरेबल और हॅज टू बी देअर व्हॅल्यू हॅज टू बी देअर. आपल्याकडे बरेचसे इम्पोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट वाल्यांचं स्वतःचं काही नसतं तिथं. दे आर युजली जस्ट ट्रेडिंग कम्युनिटी हु वोंट इवन हॅव अ प्रॉपर बॅलन्स शीट. मग त्यावेळेला इट डझंट वर्क बिकॉज दिस इज अ क्राउन कॉर्पोरेशन. दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू डू अनलेस all the financials and credit worthiness is checked properly. But if they, like, let's say you're trying to sell something to Reliance and they have their Mumbai office and a Delhi office, if they like it, yeah, they actually help a lot. The only thing is you have to crack that your other party is credit worthy. Okay. So you can go if you want. I can help you get in touch with your local champion in ETC, and they'll come and actually sit down and give you a full presentation of how they can help. They'll also do some studies. They are good that way. The only thing is they won't drive, and you have to keep going behind them. And unless they find the other party credit worthy, it's difficult to get that all these products for you. Okay. The other side is the EXIM banks of each country. So EXIM Bank is Export Import Trade Financing Banks of every country. In India, it is called India EXIM. If you go to, for example, Kenya, there is the Kenya EXIM Bank. Every country has an EXIM Bank, which basically becomes a counterparty to tell whether that buyer or the seller in that country is credit worthy and is he reliable or not. So all of these are government organizations, very difficult to go through, but they always have good data, and it's worth trying them if you're going to do a larger businesses, because then the consulates also get involved, especially with international trade. So EXIM Bank in India is also pretty active, and if you are using EDC, they'll work with EXIM Bank. They are pretty good because they want to, and they have a mandate to help Indians export or import. So they try to help you out. But again, your business has to make sense for everybody, and your other party has to be credit worthy. Otherwise, you have to do it with cash. Like you are sending it to your relative in India, or the Indian relative is sending it here. तुम्हाला अख्खे पैसे स्वतःचेच घालावे लागतील. हाँगकाँग सारखं इथं ट्रेड फायनान्सिंग अँड LC डिस्काउंटिंग होत नाही, other than ICICI Bank. Don't waste your time with any of the 5 banks. LC discounting doesn't happen in Canada. For last 25 years, I haven't seen anything working other than ICICI Bank will only do it for their own customers who are in India, who is the other party. Okay, and I have reached up to 90 days of LC discounting. only because the other party had an ICICI credit-worthy account. Otherwise, it was very difficult.
हर्षल, एक क्विक प्रश्न आहे अमोल जगतापकडनं.
Huh.
Do EDC support only for exporting or do they support importing as well?
So in import, so their mandate is Export Development Corporation. Importing is basically Indian or whatever that other countries, EXIM Banks should support you, but they do offer insurances. So that insurance product you can use to ensure that your money is not wasted. It's a higher premium, but they'll give you an insurance. And if you're importing, it's always good to go with them because they'll check the credit worthiness of the other side. Okay. I think I'll move forward.
Yes.
Personal experiences. Okay. So over last 25 years, this is my personal experience. One of the things which I think all of you guys who have worked with India, you'll always find somebody who wants to buy scrap metal from Canada. That works very well in the first 2 or 3 shipments. Again, LC discounting is a problem, but if you can get around the cash, कारण Canada मधनं तुम्हाला credit वर कोणी scrap metal देणार नाही. You have to pay full cash. So let's say one container मध्ये scrap metal is about $20,000. You'll have to invest that, send it over. ते इंडियात पोहोचल्यावर तुम्हाला त्याचे पैसे मिळतील. So that is there. Initially, it works fine. What I have found is it's that business doesn't grow very well because your risk in India that your other party tries to get out of handing over cash. ते काय करतात तुमच्याकडनं लेट्स से तुम्ही 20,000चा माल त्यांना 28,000 विकला. So 28,000 you're making profit. So they will take that goods which are $28,000. First 2 or 3 times they will actually use it. After that they think, oh, it's a very lucrative business. They'll sell it to 4 other people at 32,000 and they've already sold it in future. So what happens is they start facing a lot of risk on their side and it pushes you to manage their risk. So I found that you have to be careful with scrap metal. Again, you have to inspect it yourself. I went for most of the inspection. I locked the container and then I sent it. So if you want to do it, it is there. You can do a lot from typically GTA because that is where most of the industrial production happens. We have, but if you find the other party has to be credit worthy where you are not risking your money. Current paisa. Second is wood. Yeah, there's a lot of potential to set actually wooden planks for interior designing like pine wood and all. I have tried to make it work. Only thing I didn't have the time to follow through with it. And Canada मध्ये काय होतं, you have to book at least a year in advance. What happens is if you have, for example, ह्या summer मध्ये तुम्हाला you need your pine wood in certain sizes. The lumber mill had to have gone and cut that kind of trees in the winter. They cannot cut in summer. Here, the trees are cut only in winter, peak winter when it is below -10. Otherwise, they can't go into the forest. So only in winter they go and cut the trees. So you have to book that in advance. There is decent amount of money to be made. And if you can set up the supply chain with India, there is a lot of it that you can do. The only thing is whether you can set up that whole model. But there's a lot of potential. You can say that is certainly something that you can do. And India, they shouldn't cut trees. And if you go on India Mart, you will see Canadian pine being sold. And whatever is being sold at, if I look at it per cubic feet, I think you can make about $20 or something. So it is always profitable. So look at it. Paper, okay. So I have worked with paper manufacturers in India. Mainly the company I work with is Rainbow Paper, which is publicly listed and it is out of Ahmedabadच्या बाहेर आहे. So they used to buy used paper. Because India they don't make virgin paper. Most of the paper industry in India is all about recycling because that is what they do. आणि इथून आपले जे बिल असतात म्हणजे आपले टोरंटो हायड्रो वगैरेचे जे बिल्स येतात ते आपण टाकतो. दॅट ऑल गेट्स पॅक्ड अँड सेंड टू प्लेसेस लाईक इंडिया. सो आय हॅव सीन आपल्या अल्बर्टाच्या म्हणजे युटिलिटी बिल्स इन अहमदाबाद. आय हॅव सीन दोज. So, that is what that is also profitable. Again, the whole LC risk and everything happens. You have to load up the whole container here, inspect it, and send it. आणि एकच होतं की in winters we don't get enough collection and you have to be ready to find the right kind of partner here. But there is potential in India because they keep buying it. The other thing is when you start having a good like supply chain here, you will see that the paper industry out of China will try to beat you to it because from the West Coast, they're really close and they get a lot of raw material from US. So that we are not able to compete. And that's what you have to see. But India will buy, there is always something. It's not to a level that you can become a big industry, but you can always make that trade work. Second thing, the fourth thing uh, like I have friends who do it is medical equipment. So used medical equipment is sold a lot in Africa, Caribbean, those places. So if you find that some place, म्हणजे clinics असतात, dental clinic आहेत, X-ray clinics आहेत, hospital keeps auctioning of used equipment. ते तुम्ही बरचसं you can sell it to Africa, India, Philippines, इकडे सगळीकडे. Usually they're good quality. You just have to have the servicing industry. I think one of my Marathi friends, Mr. Nikum, he does that for a living, and they sell medical equipment to India and Africa and Caribbean. So not only India. In India, मध्ये बरेच लोक हल्ली most of these companies also have their like offices in India where they're selling directly firsthand, but sometimes it's expensive, so they buy the medical used equipment. Next thing, wine. Wine, I tried to make it work. Sorry, it didn't work out because of the different restrictions of Canada. कारण कॅनडामधनं ते VQA करायला वगैरे, the economics are not there, even though we can produce a lot of wine here. The problem was LCBO, that when you sell it outside, how do you sell it? आणि it only make profit when you sell it in bulk. तर बेसिकली इथं बलून्स मिळतात, त्या बलून्समध्ये ते वाईन घालून इंडियाला पाठवून मग इंडियामध्ये बॉटल करून विकणे. पण इंडियामध्ये वाईनचं द होल प्रॉब्लेम इज द डिमांड इज नॉट दॅट हाय. Wines in India are not the preferred drink. People will usually drink a whiskey or a liquor. So wine is just getting it. It's still not that profitable, but you can sell wine and you can even specialize. I tried to sell ice wine, but ते इंडियातले लोक हे काय हे अतिच गोड आहे असं म्हणून ते म्हणजे they don't consume too much. And it's not in the culture in India. Wine from Canada can be sold a lot in Europe. Because especially ice wine that can it originated from Germany but they can't produce too much. Niagara can produce a lot of ice wine which you can encourage to sell in Europe. Also Middle East and even China, Japan drinks a lot of ice wine and Canadian wine. So there is a business there. And the last thing is engineering. So engineering from Canada to India is because we have a lot of high-end tooling here. आपल्याकडे जेवढं ऑटोमेशन आहे तेवढं इंडियात अजून होत नाही. अँड वी स्पेंड अ लॉट ऑन ऑटोमेटिंग थिंग्स हिअर बिकॉज वी डोंट हॅव ह्युमन रिसोर्सेस. म्हटल्यावर दॅट काइंड ऑफ नॉलेज इज गुड टू एक्सपोर्ट टू इंडिया. आणि एक्सपिरियन्स लाईक आय हॅड वन फ्रेंड, ही इज अ कॅनेडियन. ही वेंट टू इंडिया टू हेल्प व्हेरी सिम्पल बिझनेस, हेल्प आर airports to set up the sound barriers at the runways. Okay, so if you see the Canadian runways, we usually have a lot of them because we have space. पण तिथं जे equipment आपण वापरतो so that the sound doesn't hit the road. म्हणजे even on airport road तुम्ही बघितलं तर when the plane takes off, you don't hear the boom when the plane takes off. That's because there are a lot of sound barriers. You don't see it, but that is an engineering thing. So that kind of equipment is made in it's very high-end manufacturing which happens in Canada and it's also engineered. That guy was able to do it in India also for the, I think, that's for Chandigarh Airport and Delhi Airport. So that is also something. Like there's a lot of engineering that happens. Even carbon fiber, they do a lot of all that resins and all that engineering here, which in India is still coming up. So that you can do. And importing into Canada, I have in the past imported solar equipment from India, especially electronics. And from China, I have imported panels. It was quite straightforward. I just ordered. Even now, we import stuff from China. Straightforward. I have cleared it myself. It's not as onerous as you would think about it. India, they also have cleared goods, but Canada was a breeze. And of course, back office. We in my company also we We have two back offices in India, so it's services. They do handle our customer service and all. पुण्यामध्ये पण आहे आणि मोहालीला पण आहे. And we do import into Canada services. So that's kind of what I have done. And in respect of time, I'll quickly go over to the last slide and then we'll do questions. So risks and strategies. I just wanted to explain to the Marathi diaspora that licensing in Canada is actually, there is no problem importing and exporting. You have to get what is called an RM account number, which is if you get a business number when you register your business, which is again a very straightforward thing. You can call them and ask for an RM number. Once you have an RM number, you can clear your goods, you can import and export anything. Typically, duties here is your basic GST. Okay, there are a few restrictions where you have to see it's a country of origin काय आहे. म्हणजे there are certain goods which if they originate out of China or Mongolia, there is a certain duty. But most of the times I've found that what we handle, it's very limited duties or things. Canada that way is a very open country. I can tell you about exporting from Canada. You have to see whether the other country has duties. For example, India has a lot of duties, and India's duties पण it's always good to use a freight forwarder to check all of it because sometimes you have to base it that your goods are going to be double the price in India because of tax over taxes. Okay, so it's not easy. कॅनडा इज व्हेरी स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड 5%, बट इंडियामध्ये त्या टॅक्सेस लावतात आणि मग त्याच्यावरती वॅट असतो. मग वेदर इट्स पार्शियली मॅन्युफॅक्चर्ड और फुल्ली मॅन्युफॅक्चर्ड, सो देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग. बट यूज अ फ्रेट फॉरवर्डर. आय थिंक in the GTA area around the airport, there are a lot of freight forwarding companies which do trade with everybody else in the world. They have a lot of expertise in telling you quickly, but try to find your classification of your goods before you go to them. Okay, so do your studies. So tariffs are different from duties. Okay, one thing we have to realize what is happening south of the border is tariffs. Duties were always there. Duties are by the classification of a product. Tariffs are by the country of origin. So usually you have duties and tariffs. So don't ever think and do your full analysis whether there is a tariff or not. And tariffs come and go. Duties always stay. Okay, it's very rare. I think I'll tell you an example. In USA मध्ये हापूस आंबा आणण्यासाठी they had to reduce the duties on Harley Davidson motorcycles in India. Okay, तर आपला हापूस आंबा is equal to Harley Davidson. Okay, तर हे लक्षात ठेवा. So you have to look at what happens. Next is, these are kind of the risks and strategies. So the strategy should be specialty goods. Look at things which are very specialized. For example, एक मी बरेच लोकांना सांगत होतो, इथून ब्लूबेरीजचं ज्यूस is required by Ayurvedic medicines in India. And blueberries grown in the wild is very difficult to harvest here, and you get it only for a month, but you can harvest enough to process it आणि त्याचा अर्क आपण इंडियात वर्षभर विकू शकतो. So there are quite a few things which are specialized. The other thing I can tell you from my past analysis was the natives here make a tea out of pine needles. पाईनचं जे ट्री असतं ना, म्हणजे क्रिसमस ट्री, त्याच्या निडल्स पासून ते एक चहा करतात. दॅट इज सर्टन. त्याचे पण म्हणजे बरेच चांगले गुणगान आहेत. दॅट ऑल्सो टेस्टफुल. दॅट इज like not properly exported. Pine nuts are very expensive. Pine nuts are sold at a premium in Europe for making pesto sauce. And we have so many pine trees. And again, forest grown pine trees are like they charge a premium. So look at what you can do, specialized goods. And again, if you find a particular niche area or a niche, growing crop, then you will always be there in business. Second is look at the market size. ओके, तुम्ही जर का एक गोष्ट विकत असाल तर त्याचं तिकडचं मॅक्सिमम मार्केट साईज किती आहे. तर मॅक्सिमम मार्केट साईज जर का तुम्हाला वाटलं की 1 million people आहे, इमॅजिन दॅट यू विल सेल ओनली टू 5% ऑफ दॅम. ओके, इफ 5% ऑफ 1 million is 5,000 people, आर यू गोइंग टू बी एबल टू सस्टेन युअर बिझनेस ऑन दॅट? ओके, हे विचार करा. श्रीपाद, आय विल कम टू द क्वेश्चन ॲट द एंड ऑफ इट. सो लुक ॲट युअर मार्केट साईज. The next thing is buying power. Okay, never think that India or Africa, we don't have people who cannot spend money. Okay, the buying power, if I look at those 41 million people in the three towns, they would, in Mumbai, Thane and Pune, त्यांची buying power in number of people who can buy a lot of goods from Canada is much higher than the number of people in Canada who can buy the same goods. Okay, so the buying power of a large amount of the world is coming to parity now. So don't think कि ते खरेदी करू शकणार नाही. Okay, look at, do some analysis, take some samples, go there, talk to people, and you will be shocked at how many things people can buy from you. Okay. Next thing, I think I saw a lot of it on Gaja Marathi. Yes, it's very good to buy and get Hapus Ambe to Canada and sell them for $4 or $5 profit. But it's a very seasonal business. Okay. What I want to encourage is people to have a living on their business that they start. Okay. Make your more than your paycheck from the business. So for that, look at annual businesses. Don't try to concentrate more on things that you can do for the whole year rather than just a season. Okay. Side करायचा असेल just as a show, तर ठीक आहे, but then it won't grow. You won't be able to hire employees. You won't make yourself, completely invested in your business. So try to look for annual things than seasonal. Seasonal things work initially. It'll get you to understand how to do it. But I think हापूस आंबे आता खूपच लोक विकतायत. So after some time, what's going to happen is आपल्याला ते, I think I'll get it at $25 a petty also. Right? Because if everybody is doing it, how are you going to sell more of it? कारण किती खाणार हो आम्ही? दिवसातनं 2 आंब्यांपेक्षा जास्त खाता येत नाही. So you have to look at that. And the last thing is flexibility. कारण आपण काय करतो बरेचदा आहे ना, everybody thinks आता मी स्क्रॅप इंडस्ट्रीमध्ये गेलो ना, आता मी केलं, अरे हे नाही चाललं, तर अरे okay, I shouldn't do it. No, that's not. At least by doing couple of transactions across 2 countries, you have understood both those countries. Now, think that as an education. If you think something is not viable, think of all the knowledge you gained out of it. That will help you set up your next business with even better understanding. Okay. And that's kind of what I would say is what you can do. There is a lot of potential in Canada. I think we are not capitalizing on it. And I don't see the youth going into the interiors of Canada. There is a lot. Okay. Even if you look at US, Canada, even Canada and Europe, PEI can supply all of McDonald's fries, potatoes in the world. The only thing is we don't have the supply chain and the youth to export it to Russia and everyone. They have so much available land, that small PEI island, to produce a lot of potatoes, but we don't have enough people to capitalize on it. So there's a lot of things that you could do in Canada. I am excited. I think I just wanted to bring that excitement to everyone. And hopefully I'll have more Marathi people doing all this activity in the future. So with that, I want to end whatever I wanted to put together. I think we'll open it for questions and discussions.
So एक chat वरती पहिल्यांदा एक प्रश्न आलाय आदित्य जोशीकडनं. To understand shipping cost from Canada to India, what are the tools, websites, or companies do you recommend to understand if certain export is viable enough?
So there are a lot of freight forwarding companies. Websites peksha, I think it is more about you have to find the right broker and transport person, because बरेचदा काय होतं, if you are going to do it as an annual business, it's better to talk to them with those volumes. There are a lot of empty containers which are sent back. If you can find somebody who's creative, I can put you in touch with some of them that I know. But there are people who work on the high seas and where they have like empty containers going. If you have something which is non-perishable, you can use those empty containers being sent back. I have seen where things are shipped as low as $1,000 from here to Canada, here to India, full container loaded, 23 tons at $1,000. And I've seen people paying even $12,000 for the same container. So it's varied. It's a very, I would say, like Ata Bara's problem I was reading today with some of the things I subscribe to, ki now the problems are with China shutting down trade with US, lot of containers are stuck in China now. Right? So that becomes a supply chain problem. And I think every day is different. You have to find the right creative people, and you can price it very aggressively. on an average, I would say $3,000 to $4,000 is what a container should cost on a decent day where you don't have any such restrictions.
Okay, Shripant, go ahead with your question.
Thank you, Harshal for a great presentation. And actually, my other question partly answer झाला आहे तुमच्या last explanation मध्ये, but I'll still ask like
Yeah, go ahead.
I was more of gonna ask in context of per kg or weight or volume. Let's say Canada to Europe or Canada to Africa or Canada to Asia or India, and vice versa. And you look at a lot of data and everything.
Sure.
So based on that information, तुम्हाला काय वाटतं की how is that categorized or priced?
Okay.
Both like to and fro.
Yeah. So shipping, like is a very fickle-minded thing. It's also depends. It's not see high seas worthy. Everything costs the same. Okay. So I'll explain to you a few things. To ship something from, let's say, Montreal to Cape Town and Montreal to, let's say, Mumbai airport, even though the distance is lot, right? Like Cape Town khub khali hai and all, the shipping cost doesn't change much because on the high seas, you don't spend a lot of money on fuel because it's like, economies of scale and how the oceans happen. That's why ocean freight is used because it's the cheapest form of transporting goods. What becomes a problem is the frequency and what is your urgency. So if you, let's say you have time and you say that, okay, I just want to pay, for example, $3,000 to ship something to India, find me a container. I don't have anything. माझ्याकडे, for example, लोखंडी scrap metal पडला. Just find me a shipper who will take it or who's got an empty ship going that way. They'll find something for you. We just have to, find the right strategy. And I think if you find a good freight forwarder, they can do a lot for you. And it'll all happen about how much volume it is. If it's one-off, then it's fine. I'll tell you one example. LTL shipping, less than truckload or whatever. So let's say कुणाचं तरी आहे ना, you want to ship, for example, a heavy piece of equipment which is made out of steel, and let's say it's a small one crate, but it weighs about, let's say, a ton. And what happens is instead of fitting, just 20 of those small ones into, because a container can only pick, let's say, 23 tons. So what they'll do is they'll put wood and this, and that way both of you will save money. So there's a lot of all these things that these guys do to save your cost. फक्त you'll have to work with them. And what is the urgency? आता आंबे आणायचे म्हणजे they have to fly it by air and there's no, you have to pay that price. So you have to look at your goods and how you want to do it. But usually, I would say a ballpark for the world is $3,000 to $5,000 for a container to go from any point to any point. And that's usually a 23-ton 40-footer.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
हर्षल, अजून एक प्रश्न आहे चॅट मध्ये सुदेश कुमार कडनं. What are the different websites for statistics that you had mentioned here?
Okay, so I will send it to you. आम्ही नंतर टाकू. So one is of course EDC वरती पण तुम्हाला मिळेल. Second is Statistics Canada वरती आहे भरपूर. And the third one which I like is oec.world. That is the site which इथे हे सगळे तुम्हाला graphs वगैरे मिळतील. You can put two different countries and see what is the trade imbalance, and you can see a lot. Okay, it's a free website. You can also create an account there. But it's pretty good data there.
Okay, Pratik, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Harshal, for the talk. It has been very insightful. माझा question म्हणजे I just want to know about your experience. Since you are urging to make or produce stuff here and then sell it outside, but immigrants' tendency is always to call stuff from homeland and sell it here. And the driving force behind that is mostly the labor market. तिकडे जितक्या सहजतेनं आपण वस्तू प्रोड्यूस करू शकतो आणि लेबर मिळवू शकतो आणि इकडे आणू शकतो, इथे कुठलेही लिगल लूप्स नसतात आणि असले जरी लूपहोल्स असतात. पण इथे मात्र जेव्हा आपण आपली टीम वाढवतो किंवा सर्व्हिसेस कोणाकडनं घेतो तेव्हा like we have to deal with lot many legal things as well. So how was your experience and how did you manage to grow your team?
No, it's actually much easier here. You just have to read the rules and follow the rules, and you are okay. Nobody disturbs you. So that is one thing I would say. India, made it's a, I would say it's a myth that uh, things can be produced easily. I think one of the major things is cost of energy in India. Even though you will save a lot on human resource, again, human resource in India, especially skilled resource, is very expensive. Like to the amount of where we think की हाँ आपल्याला एक माणूस मिळेल. No, you find a plumber in Mumbai, it is so expensive. It's the same as in London. The thing is, India मध्ये the cost of electricity and oil and everything is so high, and it's very unreliable. So for example, I know when we were doing a solar project in India, in Gujarat, the cheapest way for me to bring like there was a certain, screws like which go into the soil, and they're like about 4 feet high, and they were like huge screws. It was a whole mounting equipment. ते तयार करायला we tried to do a lot in India, even though when Modi ji was the chief minister. This is when I was doing that project. The cheapest way I found it with the right kind of zinc plating that I wanted, I could do only in Germany and bring it to India. Much cheaper than doing it in India. I even went to 4 plants and I found that they're below par in terms of the kind of finishing I need. So India can produce, yes, I'm not saying no, but you have to look at whether it is there. The other thing about Canada is gas, electricity is really cheap for industries here. And we have unlimited, like if I want a big 11 kVA line, they'll give it to me here. In India, to get that, I'll have to spend like 1 crore of rupees. So that makes it much easier to like sort of similar. Sometimes it's cheaper here because you can automate a lot of stuff. So my experience is if you do it the right way, even Canada can produce very cost-effective goods. Yeah, I can tell you one more example. One of my friends, he's still here. He was actually selling uh, socks made in Punjab to Canada Canada and US. And his major market, he expanded in the US, and he was doing wholesale socks, right? And it was all knitting. And at some point, his factory in India could not run for a month. He kept searching all across the world, and finally he found a factory in the interior of Quebec, which made it cheaper than Punjab, and he sold it to US. So sometimes the automation here is so rapid that human cost is minimal. So you have to look at what industry you are. Everywhere you have positives and negatives, but yeah.
Very good. अजून एक प्रश्न आहे सुदेश कडनं चॅटमध्ये.
Yeah.
What are the opportunities with the USA imposing tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, and auto? And the similar question is for China as well.
Okay, so one thing, whatever is happening in US, don't base your business on that fickle-mindedness of their politicians. Don't think that that's an advantage. Think of your business plans where even if it wasn't there, will you be competitive? Okay, if you have a sound business plan like that, then you invest in it. If you're trying to encash on whatever is happening right now, you would, on the other side, be badly burned. So be very careful when you try to take advantage of this. I have in the past had to shut down 2 of my businesses because the government here changed their rules. So I would always advise that if you try to encash on a government's inefficiency or government's rules, it's a problem that we cannot keep it sustaining for a long term. So whatever is happening in US, I wouldn't invest right now with based on that fiasco. I would wait for 2 years. I think next year when they have their election, it will all come down and it will change. So you can see even the tariffs. They keep imposing tariffs on China, and then they say, oh, the chips are like, because otherwise there was a whole big thing where like you can see how Apple wasted its money in shipping those 1.5 million by air to US, their iPhones from India because they wanted to get around tariffs. And then Trump says, oh, there is no tariff on chips and phones. So then it was a moot point. They spent all this money. So be very careful on basing your business on that. If there is a sound business where something is made and forever it will run, then yes, go ahead. And China, you have to find a way because they will steal your IP. So you have to be very careful.
China is just like USA.
Yeah.
Ulhasnagar, India.
Ulhasnagar, India. I think Atul has put his hand
येस,
up.
अतुलचा एक प्रश्न आहे. गो अहेड अतुल. अतुल वानखेडे.
होय होय. हाय हाय हर्षल, थँक्यू.
Hello. Yeah.
माझे 2-3 क्वेश्चन कोलॅबोरेशन करून. पहिली,
Sure.
तू आता सांगितलं की मटेरियल आपण समजा इथं स्टार्ट करायचं म्हटलं एखादी गोष्ट, तर आपल्याला काही स्टोरेजची रिक्वायरमेंट वगैरे लागते का? म्हणजे ट्रस्ट कसा करणार? समजा तुम्ही जर का मॅपल जर का वूड विकत असाल, तर मला तो स्टोरेज करून ठेवावा लागेल का कमिशन बेसिसवर करावं लागेल? म्हणजे ते इंडियात कसं होतंय की आपण इंडिया मार्टवरनं बाय करतो आणि ऍडिंग कमिशन आणि सेलिंग इथं करायचं म्हटलं तर सेम प्रोसेस इथं पण अप्लाय होऊ शकते का इथं कॅनेडियन मार्केटमध्ये?
ओके, सो कॅनेडियन मार्केटमध्ये काय झालेलं आहे, फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल किती खरेदी करणार त्याच्यावरती आहे. आय कॅन टेल यू, लास्ट इयर समबडी वॉन्टेड टू बाय लाईक 4 truckloads अँड आय कुडंट फाइंड इनफ इन समर बिकॉज दे आर नॉट कट इन विंटर. So wood is something that you have to work with the lumber mill. If you have certain things about wood, I can definitely help you. I also have an investment up north in Monettville in a lumber mill. It's right now shut down because we couldn't find enough orders, but we can already, we have a forest allocation, we can harvest it. But there are lots of other people also in the northern side. I can put you in touch who are running. So I can help you out. इथं काय होतं, even when you order, you have to pay a deposit. And they store it for you till it can be shipped directly to your customer.
ओके. आणि सर इथं मिनिमम मला इन्व्हेस्टमेंट किती लागते सुरुवात करायची म्हणते तर? आता म्हणजे कारण का इकडचं डायरेक्ट कन्व्हर्जन आपण डोक्यात करतो की मल्टिप्लाइड बाय 60.
हे बघा, तुमच्याकडे मार्केट असेल, आय टेल यू वन थिंग, इंडियामधनं जो घेतोय, अनलेस इट इज युअर ओन पर्सन, ट्राय टू गेट द इन्व्हेस्टमेंट फ्रॉम इंडिया.
ओके.
Okay, आणि I'll tell you the cost of one container of pine wood you won't it will never become 23 tons because that is the limit. Is just about $15,000 मध्ये you can fill up a container. 15,000. And always I'll tell you, इंडिया मधनं म्हणतात हो मी कन्व्हर्शन, काही नाही. बी व्हेरी स्टर्न की 15,000 म्हणजे इंटू 60 इज 9 लाख रुपये तुम्ही इन्व्हेस्ट करत नसाल तर आय डोंट वॉन्ट टू डू बिझनेस विथ यू.
ओके.
Very simple. Like because you're doing at a larger scale, इंडियामध्ये भरपूर पैसे आहेत. They just want to spend on it and they will claim. They have way more money than we have. Sorry, but that has been my thing. And if they cannot invest that kind of money, they are not a good customer.
ओके. आणि सर आता जसं इंडियाचे वेबसाईट प्रमोशनल वेबसाईट्स असतात की त्यांच्या वेबसाईटवर गेलं तर सगळा इम्पोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट डाटा कोण कुठं सगळ्या डिटेल्स अवेलेबल असतात, बरोबर आहे? जसं इंडिया मार्टवर पण जेवढे इंडियाचे एक्सपोर्टर्स आहेत तशी लिस्ट अवेलेबल असतं. आता बऱ्याच जण तो क्वेश्चन मागे विचारला होता की जशी तुम्ही ओईसी आणि अजून वेबसाईट आहे, अशा कॅनडाच्या कुठल्या वेबसाईट असतात का? किंवा जसं मी आता नट्स बद्दल बोलायचं होतं, आपल्या इथं कसं वाशीचं भाजी मार्केट असतं, जिथं लोक जातात आणि तिकडे असा बाजार लागतो की जिथनं आपण बाईंग करू शकतो. ऑप्शन्स असतात की कोण स्वस्त आहे कोण महाग आहे. तसे काही ऑप्शन्स इथं असतात का कॅनडामध्ये? किंवा
नाही. Okay. So I'll tell you, Canada is not a market like that. Canada is more of a wholesalers market. आपण जे जातो ते इट्स बेसिकली इंटरमिडियरी मार्केटमध्ये जाता तुम्ही. ज्या वेळेला आता I'll tell you an example. बदाम. ओके, मॅक्सिमम म्हणजे मास प्रोड्यूस बदाम आर इन कॅलिफोर्निया. आता कॅलिफोर्नियामध्ये इफ यू वॉन्ट टू गो अँड लुक ॲट अ लिस्ट आणि तुम्हाला बाजार बघायचा असेल तर कॅलिफोर्नियामध्ये कुठलाही बदामाचा बाजार नसतो. ओके, बट मेजॉरिटी बदाम इंडियाला जातात. पण त्याच्यासाठी अँड हिअर द थिंग इज द स्केल्स आर बिग. तर इफ यू वॉन्ट फॉर एक्झाम्पल कुठलाही एक प्रोडक्ट त्याचे तुम्हाला त्यांचे असोसिएशन्स असतात आणि प्रोड्युसर्सचे तुम्हाला फोन नंबर वगैरे मिळेल. You will have to go and meet them personally or contact them and go there. And usually they are very straightforward. इथं एवढंच होतं की इथं फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल लोक कमी आहेत. दुसरं whoever is growing things or selling things, they already have a customer. Usually इथं एक्सेस प्रोडक्शन होत नाही. इथं तुम्हाला फॉर एक्झाम्पल आता तुम्हाला काय आता फॉर एक्झाम्पल इफ यू वॉन्ट टू गेट व्हॉट कॅन यू से सफेद मटार घ्यायचे आहेत अजून तुम्हाला, तर ऑलरेडी जो शेतकरी करतोय त्याचं ऑलरेडी मार्केट सेट आहे. तर तुम्हाला अजून काय झालं, तुम्हाला पुढच्या वर्षासाठी इफ यू आर गोइंग टू डू इट इन बिगर स्केल, त्याला जाऊन सांगावं लागेल की माझ्यासाठी 100 एकर अजून तू करून एवढं दे म्हणून. अँड यू विल हॅव टू सेटअप अ रिलेशनशिप विथ हिम. युजली हिअर देर इज नो बाजार लाईक दॅट. The government can give you, for example, at the peace, there will be an association in Saskatchewan which will give you the list of all the producers that you can get from the government, but there is no marketplace as such because it's not a big market here.
ओके, ठीक आहे. आणि सर शेवटचा क्वेश्चन,
Yeah.
आपण जो स्क्रॅप बद्दल बोललो होतो, म्हणजे व्हॉट काइंड ऑफ स्क्रॅप, म्हणजे कुठल्या टाईपचं स्क्रॅप, म्हणजे जस्ट म्हणजे आणि हे स्क्रॅप कुठनं इंडस्ट्रियल मधनं बाहेर पडणार असतं, त्यात लिक्विड पण असतात का, प्लास्टिक का, फक्त
Okay. So
मेटल पण?
plastic in India, by the way, you can't get it. India बद्दल विचार करत असाल महाराष्ट्रात, you can't bring plastic there. That is not allowed because of environmental rules doesn't allow because there is anti-dumping unless it's a particular kind of plastic which is very rare to get. HDP, LDP वगैरे म्हणतात, पण त्याचं it's not a good market. I would advise you. Metal scrap is easy because it's also dense. इथे industrial scrap, even general scrap येतं. Scrap मध्ये the problem is the buyer in India is also a scrap guy. सॉरी. तो म्हणजे तो पण तिकडे इट डिपेंड्स व्हॉट युअर. सो आय हॅव एक्सपोर्टेड अल्युमिनियम, आय हॅव एक्सपोर्टेड ferrous alloys, I have exported copper, I have exported nickel, all these things which come from, let's say, auto parts. कारण ऑटो पार्ट्स मधनं ते तयार करताना स्क्रॅप निघतो, तो विकतात. दॅट इज व्हेरी हाय क्वालिटी. सेकंड इज, तुम्ही जर करता वॉन आणि ब्रॅम्प्टन मध्ये वगैरे जाल तर यू हॅव कंपनीज विच बाय स्क्रॅप, जिथं तुम्ही म्हणजे यू कॅन डम्प थिंग्स अँड देन दे क्लासिफाय अँड सेंड इट. त्यांच्याकडनं तुम्हाला वेळ. सो इट ऑल डिपेंड्स व्हॉट युअर बायर इज. इंडियामध्ये युजली दे बाय इट फॉर स्मेल्टिंग. Aluminum is requested in larger quantities, but again, you have to be very careful about the person who's buying. Take full cash from him, otherwise him or her. Don't sell it with your cash.
शुअर, थँक्यू सर.
अरे सर नका म्हणू हर्षल.
Okay. Thank you, Atul. Vishal Chaudhary.
थँक्स हर्षल आणि थँक्स टीम. हर्षल, एक प्रश्न असा आहे की कधी कधी आपल्याला इंडियाला जेव्हा आपण एक्सपोर्ट करतो त्यावेळेला किंवा इम्पोर्ट करतो तिकडनं, त्यावेळेला आपण रिब्रँडिंग करतो, म्हणजे रॉ मटेरियल घेऊन आपण आपल्या कंपनीचं, आणि हे जर आपल्याला कॅनडातून ते इंडियाला करायचं असेल तर तो तसा काय प्रकार करावा लागतो का, की त्याच्यातून काही प्रोज आणि कॉन्स आहेत का त्या गोष्टीच्या?
Canada made in India made in Canada will sell better than made in India.
म्हणजे आपल्याला तो प्रकार करावा लागत नाही, किंवा एका दिवसात म्हणजे असं काही अशा प्रोडक्ट विषयी त्यांना म्हणजे काही प्रॉब्लेम नाहीये?
I haven't seen any backlash on being made in Canada. आणि
Okay.
मेड इन कॅनडा खूप कमी गोष्टी असतात. एकतर
Okay.
फिनिश गुड्स आपल्याकडे खूप कमी तयार होतात. रॉ गुड्स आहेत पण त्याच्यावरती कंट्री ऑफ ओरिजिन होतं, बट कन्झ्युमरकडे जात नाही. कन्झ्युमरकडे आपले कमी असतात. आणि मेड इन कॅनडाचा आय हॅवंट सीन अ बॅकलॅश. Where it becomes an issue is if you take 14 components from China, put 2 components from Canada, and then see you sell it as made in Canada, you will be stuck in the customs.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
So you have to be very careful about that, especially in high-tech industry, that happens.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. Next question from chat window. Osric DeCosta. When you are talking about doing an export, can we go to the business buy from them in wholesale and then sell elsewhere, or do everything from manufacturing to export?
No, you can do anything. You can be just a tradesperson. It doesn't mean. I don't think you should get into manufacturing unless you have made your money in trading something. Don't start with manufacturing unless you have a specific specialty good that you are good at. Manufacturing for export, it should be the last thing that you should do. First, try to ascertain that there is a market. म्हणजे तिथं मार्केटच नसेल, खप होणारच नसेल, तर मग तुम्ही मॅन्युफॅक्चरिंग घालू नका. आधी तुम्ही buy from others, repackage or rebrand and sell first, and then start doing your. It costs a lot to put together a manufacturing place, and then you have to look at human resource and everything. Yes, if you have the market, go for it. Much cheaper to make things here than in India or Africa. But first, see whether the market is viable.
Okay. Next question, Anirudh Kulkarni. What would you advise for a person who has no prior experience in import or export? Also, may I know how you usually find your buyers and sellers?
Meet people. Okay. So yeah, see, I can tell you one thing ki I have never got like माझे हे जे whatever I think I'll go to my things. All these things came about because my primary work, okay, I'm a civil and environmental engineer. I'm an environmental engineer. I used to go across the 15 देश म्हटलं I used to go there and do my environmental engineering work. त्यावेळेला so for example I was in उझबेकिस्तान. तर उझबेकिस्तानमध्ये चांगले मूग तयार होतात. तर हे मूग मी इंडियाला घेऊन काय म्हटलं अरे एवढे मोठे मूग म्हणजे शेंगदाणे एवढे मूग तिथं तयार होतात तुम्ही खरेदी का नाही करत मग त्यावेळेला कळालं की वेल्सपन नावाची जी इंडियाची कंपनी आहे त्याचं ऑलरेडी कॉटन थ्रेडची कंपनी ऑलरेडी तिथे होती सगळे होते सो वेन आय एम गोइंग फॉर माय अदर वर्क आय फाउंड ऑल दिस आय नेव्हर वेंट फॉर ओके आपण हे जाऊन करू सो दॅट इज वन थिंग सेकंड थिंग इज मीट पीपल अँड स्टडी अँड टॉक टू पीपल तुम्ही त्यांना विचारा तुम्हाला काय हवं आहे तुम्ही आम्ही अजून काय आणून देऊ अँड देन थिंक ऑफ थिंग्स दॅट वी वुड बी युनिक सो वन ऑफ द थिंग्स इज वी आर अ कोल्ड कंट्री अँड इट्स अ क्लीन कंट्री तर आपल्याकडे काही गोष्टी आहेत जे इंडियामध्ये तयार म्हणजे वाढू शकतच नाही त्या गोष्टी तुम्ही तिकडे विकू शकता दुसरी थिंग इंडियामधल्या बऱ्याचशा गोष्टी इथं आणू शकता येस बट अगेन यू हॅव टू लुक ॲट वेदर द मार्केट इज वायबल कारण इथे खूप कमी लोक आहेत आणि वेदर दे नीड इट हिअर So yeah, just meet people. India मध्ये the other thing you have to see is India has progressed a lot. So they like nice things. So Canada Goose is, by the way, Canada Goose, I'll tell you another export market. Canada Goose doesn't make a lot of money in Canada. It makes the highest amount of money in China. China is not a cold country, but the Chinese people for brand value want to wear a Canada Goose jacket, which is made in Canada and sold in China. Okay, so you have to think of it. Chinese don't make Canada Goose jackets. They buy at a premium, $700 चा एक jacket. जेव्हा की तिथे एवढी थंडी पण नसते. It's all because they wanted to have that exclusivity that it is an expensive. So you have to look at what it is. I'll tell you, diamonds from Canada are the cleanest diamonds, so they are sold at a premium. But yeah, do you have a market? If you have a market, yeah, sell them. The government is also work with you. Don't get into uranium business because that you will get into all kinds of because that is a restricted one. But yeah, we do have one of the best sources of uranium in Canada as well.
Okay, perfect. I think that was the last question from chat, but we can still get a couple of more questions if people are having one.
Any personal experience? I think Jagdish, you had some personal experience of doing some business, guy, export, import. Any such experiences also we would. I just spoke because I wanted to bring up this discussion, but if anybody else wants to add something, yeah, go ahead.
या माझा तसा बराच सोर्सिंग आणि रिसोर्सिंगचा एक्सपिरियन्स बराच आहे म्हणजे इंडस्ट्रियल इलेक्ट्रॉनिक कॉम्पोनंट्स ऑलमोस्ट जगभरातनं लाईक आय यूज टू सोर्स and supply in all the major industries across Canada. आणि आत्ता पण मी काही गोष्टी इम्पोर्ट एक्सपोर्टच्या माझ्याकडे काही रिक्वायरमेंट्स आहेत ज्या जसं आत्ता माझ्याकडे एक कॅनोला ऑइलची मेजर रिक्वायरमेंट आहे पण मला इकडे कॅनोला ऑइल कॅनडामध्ये मिळतच नाही लाईक मग अशी ॲज यू सेड हर्षल की त्यांचं ऑलरेडी ऑर्डर्स बुक असतात आणि
Yes,
तेवढंच ते प्रोड्यूस करतात
yes.
तर माझ्याकडे साधारण 14 कंटेनर्स पर इयरची ऑनगोईंग रिक्वायरमेंट आहे बट आय डोंट हॅव अ सोर्स फॉर दॅट
Canola oil is Saskatchewan, right? Major producer.
येस येस
माझा Saskatoon office, I can ask them to find it for you. I
ओके
didn't. Okay. Yeah.
मग त्याचे स्पेसिफिकेशन्स आय सेंड इट टू यू
Okay. Now I'll put you in touch with the staff there and you can ask them to go around and meet the government and get it.
ओके
Because हे काय होतं in Canada, all these massive, म्हणजे you have to actually to see how vast it can be, you have to go to Saskatchewan and see. म्हणजे you will see about like hundreds of thousands of hectares of wheat being harvested at the same time. I don't think that kind of scale you will ever observe on earth. Right? आणि ते सगळे are all cooperatives and government and all of them are because they don't have a such छोट्या शेतकऱ्याचं मार्केट नाहीच आहे सो
नाही नाही ते सगळ्या लॉबीज आहेत
हा
एकदम
सगळ्याला
स्ट्रॉंग
यू
लॉबी
कॅन गेट इन टच विथ देम आय कॅन
Yeah.
हेल्प यू फॅसिलिटेट दॅट इन सस्काटून तर तिथे
Okay.
माझं आता ऑफिस सुरू झालंय
सुप्रियांचा एक प्रश्न आहे.
हा, या.
सुप्रिया, गो अहेड.
नमस्कार दादा.
नमस्कार.
आपल्या शेतातलं जे काही धान्य असेल म्हणजे तांदूळ किंवा डाळी वगैरे असं, म्हणजे डाळी तरी मिळतातच, पण स्पेशली आंबेमोहर तांदूळ किंवा इंद्रायणी तांदूळ तो इथे कसा काही विकता येईल, म्हणजे कसं काही?
हे बघा, आंबेमोहर इंद्रायणी हा किती तुम्ही विकू शकाल?
अं, म्हणजे मला इतकं एवढं माहिती नाहीये किती आमच्याकडे होतंय ते.
हा, तर हे मी सांगेन की ॲज आय सेड की आपण बरेचशे लोकांना इकडे आल्यावर असं वाटतं की अरे इंडियाच्या गोष्टी आपण येणार. खूप छोटं मार्केट आहे.
बरं.
आंबेमोहर इथे पण आय थिंक पंचवटी काय कुठे एक थोड्या
मिळतो, बरोबर आहे.
दुकानांमध्ये मिळतो ऑलरेडी. हा, तेवढा चांगला नाही मिळणार. इंद्रायणी तेवढा चांगला नाही मिळणार.
बरोबर.
पण हे तुम्ही तुमच्या म्हणजे
हो,
माहिती
स्वतःच्या
असते.
नाही, स्वतःच्या शेतातलंच आहे त्यामुळे विचारते मी.
हो ना, मग ते तुम्ही पण हे बघा त्याचं मॅक्सिमम तुम्ही किती समजा करून करून किती 100 टन विकू शकणार आहात?
100
नाही.
नाही.
1 टन मॅक्सिमम तुमचं तयार होत असेल, राईट?
बरोबर, बरोबर.
तेवढं विकायला तुम्ही इथे येऊन विकून तुम्ही किती कमावणार त्याचं? म्हणजे तुम्ही घरासाठी वापरा, आम्ही पण ऑर्डर करू तुमच्याकडनं. बट इट विल बी अ व्हेरी स्मॉल घरगुती म्हणजे ॲज अ साइड बिझनेस. यू कॅनॉट मेक इट इंटू अ मेन बिझनेस.
हा, मग ते साइड बिझनेस साठी काही
काही लागणार नाही. यू हॅव टू जस्ट म्हणजे तुम्हाला जर का 100 किलो 200 किलो आणायचं असेल, देर आर लॉट ऑफ फ्रेट फॉरवर्डर्स. ते
बरं.
इथे आणून तुम्ही रिपॅकेजिंग करून पर्सनल ह्याच्यामध्ये विका. ॲज अ बिझनेस विकायचं असेल तर यू हॅव टू गो थ्रू ऑल द फूड सेफ्टी लॉज. पण
बरं.
तुम्ही जर का आता गरजे मराठीच्या 100 फॅमिलीजना तुम्ही 10-10 किलो देणार असाल, यू कॅन गो अहेड अँड डू दॅट.
बरं.
You can sell it in between us. That is not restricted. But
पण
you
मग
cannot make
त्यासाठी
it.
इम्पोर्ट एक्सपोर्टचं लायसन्स म्हणजे गरजेचं नाहीये?
तुम्ही एकच जर का तुमच्या शेतातनं आणत असाल तर वर्क थ्रू अन इम्पोर्टर ऑलरेडी बरेच आहेत हू ऑलरेडी इम्पोर्ट दिस. आय कॅन पुट यू इन टच विथ 2 or 3 ऑफ देम आणि ते तुमच्यासाठी आणून तुम्हाला देतील बिकॉज दे वुड हॅव गॉन थ्रू इट. ते तुम्हाला इथे आणून देतील अँड यू जस्ट टेक इट. तुमचाच अमान इथे बिकॉज फॉर यू टू गो थ्रू इट येस यू कॅन गो थ्रू इट. डझंट कॉस्ट यू टू मच. पण मग यू विल जस्ट डू इट फॉर दिस वन गुड्स और यू विल यूज इट फॉर अदर थिंग्स ऑल्सो. हे तुम्ही विचार करा.
बरं.
आणि ते एकासाठी केलं तर सगळं मग त्याचं डॉक्युमेंटेशन आणि अकाउंटिंग हे सगळं हेडेक तुमच्याकडे राहील. ते
बरं.
काही म्हणजे सुरुवातीला तुम्ही हर्षलनी सजेस्ट केलं तसं इम्पोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट जे एजंट आहेत त्यांच्या थ्रू त्यांच्या लायसन्सवरती तुम्ही आणू शकता ते.
बरं.
जगदीशजी, एक प्रश्न आहे चॅटमध्ये, प्रॉब्ली तुम्ही त्याचा आन्सर देऊ शकता. शंकर तागड त्यांच्याकडे एक प्रश्न आहे. इज देअर एनी इन पर्सन गेट टुगेदर हॅपनिंग फॉर गर्जे मराठी इन नियर फ्युचर?
येस, वी आर प्लॅनिंग ऑन समथिंग आणि ॲज सून ॲज काहीतरी कॉन्क्रीट होईल त्यावेळेस आपण आपल्या व्हॉट्सॲपवरती त्याची माहिती देऊच. त्याचबरोबर आमचा आत्ता एक म्हणजे आता तो विषय निघाला म्हणून, अदरवाईज वी आर नॉट गोइंग टू डिस्कस अबाउट इट. आमचा आत्ता एक एक दिवसीय संमेलन करण्याचं पण वर्किंग चालू आहे आता. आणि त्याचे पण डिटेल्स तुम्हाला काही दिवसामध्ये त्याचे आम्ही पाठवू डिटेल्स.
ओके, थँक्यू.
मला वाटतं आता 9:30 वाजले तर अजून कोणाचे काही बिलिंग इफ यू कॅन.
या, जस्ट अ सेकंड. स्वप्नील ठाकरे, त्यांना व्हॉट्सअप लिंक पाहिजे, व्हॉट्सअप ग्रुपची लिंक पाहिजे का स्वप्नील तुम्हाला? आय कॅन फॉरवर्ड दॅट यू, नॉट अ प्रॉब्लेम.
हा,
ओके.
कदाचित आता आज जेवढे लोक जॉईन झाले आहेत त्याच्यामध्ये कदाचित काही लोक असतील जे गरजे मराठीचे मेंबर नाही आहेत.
ओके,
कारण आपण हा सेशन आहे हा सगळ्या वेगवेगळ्या ग्रुप्स वरती टाकलेली होती याची माहिती.
करेक्ट.
तर असे समजा कोणी असाल तर तुम्ही कृपया आमच्याशी संपर्क करा. आम्ही तुम्हाला गरजे मराठी कसं जॉईन व्हायचं त्याची सगळी माहिती आम्ही तुम्हाला पुरवू.
नक्कीच.
Again, Garja Marathi is for helping on Marathi Maharashtra origin people to do entrepreneurship. आमचे कुठलेही इथे there is no official body or anything other than we three have helped in setting it up. आमचे काही membership fee नसते काही नाही. It's all about networking and encouraging people to start their businesses. आणि I'm happy to say that today I saw one of the first person, Aditya Joshi, has gone full time into being an entrepreneur. So welcome
Yes.
aboard. आणि मला असं वाटतं की भरपूर लोकांनी स्वतःचे बिझनेस सुरू करून यू कॅन बी रिअली प्रॉस्परस. दिस कंट्री म्हणजे एस्पेशली इन कॅनडा इट्स अ लॉट ऑफ फ्रीडम टू डू वॉट एव्हर यू वॉन्ट टू डू. आय थिंक ऑल ऑफ अस शुड बी एनकरेजिंग each other to do it.
Perfect.
And that
On
is our whole aim, and we are ready to help everybody and anybody.
Yeah. So thank you. Thanks a lot, Harshal, for this such an informative session. तुम्ही आत्ताची जी काय माहिती दिली सगळी प्रेझेंटेशन त्याच्यातून दिलेली तुमची माहिती, त्याचबरोबर तुमचे स्वतःचे एक्सपिरियन्स अनुभव जे काय तुम्ही शेअर केले ते इकडच्या सगळ्या लोकांना नक्कीच त्याचा फायदा होईल. आणि वी आर होपिंग की ह्याच्यातनं अजून कोणी आदित्य जोशी काय जसं आता आपल्याला आपण हे एक्झाम्पल मिळालं तसं त्याच्या जोडीने अजून 4 उद्योजक पुढे निर्माण झाले तर तेच आपल्याला ह्या सगळ्या आपल्या डिस्कशनचं फलित म्हणता येईल. तर त्यामुळे ह्या सगळ्या गोष्टींसाठी पुन्हा एकदा हर्षल तुमचे सगळ्यांचे आभार. त्याचबरोबर सगळे जे लोक अटेंडीज आता इथे आहेत त्या सगळ्यांना पुन्हा एकदा विनंती की गरजे मराठी कॅनडाचं जे व्हॉट्सअप लिंक वगैरे आहे त्या सगळ्या गोष्टी आम्ही तुम्हाला फॉरवर्ड करू शकतो. प्लीज जॉईन दॅट ग्रुप. त्याच्याच जोडीने त्याच्यामध्ये अजून एक गुगल डॉक्सचा पण एक फॉर्म आहे तो पण भरून द्या. त्या फॉर्म भरल्यामुळे त्याच्यातनं जी आम्हाला माहिती मिळणार त्या माहितीच्या आधारे असेच पुढचे जे वेबिनार करायचे त्याच्यासाठी तुम्हाला पुढच्या वेबिनारसाठी टॉपिक्स हवेत तर त्या टॉपिकची माहिती आम्हाला त्याच्यातनं मिळते. त्याचबरोबर ते टॉपिक्स प्रेझेंट करायला कोणी प्रेझेंटर्स असतील तर त्याची पण आम्हाला माहिती त्याच्यातनं मिळते. त्या सगळ्या गोष्टींच्यासाठी म्हणून तो गुगल डॉक्स भरून देणं फार महत्वाचं आहे. तर त्यामुळे ते माहिती सगळी आम्हाला भरून द्या आणि असेच आम्ही नवीन नवीन इन्फॉर्मेटिव्ह सेशन्स तुमच्याकडे घेऊन येत राहू. तर या सगळ्यासाठी पुन्हा एकदा सगळ्यांचे उपस्थितांचे धन्यवाद आणि विशेष करून हर्षल गुंडे तुमचे धन्यवाद. नमस्कार.